What's up, everybody? Welcome into Hockey Sense. Great to be with you. We were off last Friday, so we are energized. This is brought to you by First Community. Of course, firstcommunity.com. Find the branch nearest you. Sign your son or daughter up for Little Blues. It's the best hockey program going. It's the best way to introduce your son or daughter into the game of ice hockey. Little Blues, baby. All the equipment comes with it. You don't have to go out to the hockey shop and get skates and sticks and all the gear. Everything comes in a box. You're ready to rock and roll. Sign your son or daughter up today, ages 4 through 9, Little Blues. Brought to you by First Community. And you got to love that. Dirt Cheap Fun Fun, your one-stop party shop. Download that app. If you live within 10 miles of a Dirt Cheap location, guess what? You get free delivery. How nice is that? Best selection of beer, wine, and booze. They've got that walk-in beer cooler. It's incredible. When it gets really hot, we really haven't had that type of heat yet here in St. Louis, but when people are looking for me, they say, "Where's Stricky?" You hanging out in the beer cooler at Dirt Cheap, baby. Dirt Cheap Fun Fun, your one-stop party shop. Cheap, cheap, fun, fun. Blue Note Roofing, 314-920-5713. Call David Novak today. Wind, hail damage, storm damage, need a new roof? There is nobody better than David Novak with Blue Note Roofing. He'll talk pucks with you too. 314-920-5713. Blue Note Roofing. And of course, Mako and Kirkwood. More than 100 years combined experience in the collision repair and auto painting industry. They have more than 75 years of combined experience at the Kirkwood Mako location. They'll pick you up. They'll deliver your car if you live within 5 miles. And estimates are available. $50 for the estimate, but guess what? That goes towards your final balance. They've got the best price guarantee, nationwide warranty, and all Class A insurance repairs. Good as long as you own the vehicle. How nice is that? They focus on drivable repairs. So if you can't drive the car, it's probably not the place to go. But if you can drive it, no matter how bad it is, you can drive it. Get it in there. They'll fix it. But this allows them to turn it over quickly, get the next people in there. They don't want to have delays and people waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks to get your car back. They're so fast, so friendly, best customer service. Everybody over there. Kirkwood Mako. I just took my wife's car there. Unbelievable service. You talk about customer satisfaction. We are satisfied. I mean, things happen. I get it. And let's hope we don't have any more dents or paint damage. But Mako, baby, in Kirkwood. Get there and get there today. All right, lots to get into. Big news today as Darren Radish gets traded from Tampa to Toronto. It's a sign trade. Comes with an 8-year contract extension, $8.5 million. Listen, really happy for him. Hopefully it's a good contract moving forward for Toronto. They need a guy like him. He can really shoot the puck. He's got a great shot. Had 22 goals. And now the expectations are going to be for him to put up big-time numbers. I don't know if that's truly in the cards for him. But different type of players. I know that Toronto has some good players on the power play. Like elite talent. When you look at William Nylander and Austin Matthews and these guys. Matthew Nyes is a good player. But they're just different than the Jake Gensels and the Nikita Kucherovs and the Braden Points. But those guys are just so driven to win. Now, they haven't won. Like, let's go Tampa Bay. Let's get it going. You lose in the first round every year now. And I'm sure Tampa Bay had a number that they were willing to go to for Radish to keep him around, but they just didn't want to go any higher. Can't really blame him for that. He is 30 years of age and gets an 8-year deal. So we'll see how that plays out. The Mike Babcock situation, I don't know. I mean, the players are okay with it. He didn't really do anything criminal. Like, he crossed the line ethically. He doesn't have a great reputation. You know, at a time when, you know, Mitch Marner is coming out after the playoffs talking about his mental health and how serious he takes it. And players who played for Babcock in Detroit have said that he affected their mental health. And the league says they're all behind mental health, yet they're allowing this guy to come back in and coach. It tells you everything you need to know. It's 3rd and goal. I wouldn't say it's 4th and goal yet for the Oilers. I think it gets to 4th down when McDavid's in the final year of his contract. But right now, we'll say it's 3rd down. 3rd and goal. And they are running out of time. So how desperate is Edmonton? This should tell you everything you need to know. Or the lack of coaching options that are out there. I mean, yeah, they obviously wanted to hire Bruce Cassidy, and that just wasn't going to happen. I'm curious to see how Babcock does. It's been several years since he's coached. I mean, you got to go back to when he was in Toronto the last time he coached an NHL game. Columbus doesn't count, but they did their investigation with Columbus. I don't feel like the veteran players really cared too much. What happened was, sure, it was cancel culture times, but it also got in the hands of a couple podcasts, and it just spread like wildfire. And it was too much for Columbus to overcome. Where would Columbus be now if they would have kept Babcock? But Columbus, if they're giving this guy the thumbs up to say, yeah, let him come back in and coach, but they felt like they had to fire him. Like they totally succumbed to public pressure. Completely succumbed to public pressure for firing this guy. If it really wasn't that, if he's looking through some phones, I mean, listen, it wasn't great. Don't get me wrong. I'm hearing maybe there was a situation that involved Patrick Laine, but this is so long ago for these guys. Like, I hear that the players in Columbus, they really weren't even looking to participate in any kind of investigation. It's the offseason. They got other things to do. They're not worried about Mike Babcock or maybe what took place several years ago. So anyway, Babs is back in the NHL. We'll see what that means for Edmonton moving forward. We've got Jim Montgomery on this edition of the of Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. I almost said Cam and Strick Podcast. Really good conversation. You know, they hired Greg Cronin, who Monty has a prior relationship with. You go back to when Monty showed up at the University of Maine. Cronin was a graduate assistant coach. Cronin interviewed for an assistant coaching job in Boston. He didn't get the job when Monty was head coach. Monty interviewed for an assistant coaching job with Northeastern when Cronin was the head coach at Northeastern, where Joey Vitale played for him. Kyle Kramer played for him. A couple St. Louis kids. And so they have a long history. Vinny Prospero, they've got a big history there, too. I believe Monty and him played in the minors together. They were roommates. They've kept a good friendship. So you should never be surprised when there's a connection when a coach hires assistant coaches. This is the first time Monty's ever done it or had the luxury to be able to do it. He inherited a coaching staff at every stop along the way. I didn't know Patrice Bergeron was having his jersey retired, too, at the time that we did this interview with Monty earlier in the week. So didn't get into that either. But I'm happy for Monty. We talk about what this roster might look like, how young they're going to be. I've reported this, and I've said this several times now. Robert Thomas is off the trade block, according to sources close to the St. Louis Blues. Doesn't mean that other players aren't, and we'll just see what it means. I think you just have to sit back and relax, pour yourself a tequila and soda, and chill. Sit back and just watch how it all plays out. Who's coming, who's going. And what is this team going to look like? I think this team could be a playoff team. I really do. I mean, they were a couple of years ago. They've gotten younger. They're better as a younger team than they were with some of the veterans around, I think. I think they got quicker. You have players with bigger roles, and not just bigger roles, but put into roles that could truly have a bigger impact on the team and help the team win. They're a close team. These guys are pretty close, these young guys. It's interesting to see what happens with a guy like Jonathan Bergeron. I like Bergeron. He's a great luxury to have as a guy that kind of comes in and out of the lineup. Because when he comes in, he's ready to go. He'll give you 3, 4, 5 really good games in a row. He might slow down a little bit. He's not the perfect player defensively, but there's no way to overlook what he's capable of doing offensively or the impact that he had with the Blues offensively last year. But talking to his camp, there's just not a whole lot of clarity in terms of what may or may not happen between he and the Blues. He is a restricted free agent, so I guess you could qualify him and then negotiate a extension with him after that. We'll see what happens. He's a good player to have around. Um, a lot of these rumors that are out there with Elias Pettersson from Vancouver, I look at it a couple different ways. First off, he's just not the Blues' cup of tea. I would shut down those rumors immediately. Anyone who's throwing that out there about St. Louis, I just don't see it. I've checked with some people too, and they've given me no indication to believe that that is a option for St. Louis. I mean, Vancouver's not going to eat 50% of his salary. They may eat a couple of $1,000,000. The guy had 100 points in the National Hockey League. I can't take that away from him. I think playing under Tocchet, they broke him. JT Miller broke him. And I'm not being critical of those guys at all. There's a reason for it. But he just couldn't handle the pressure that he was dealing with internally or externally. He had 15 goals last year, 15 goals the year before. Has not played well. Didn't play great in the Olympics either. It just doesn't seem like a move the Blues would make. Not to mention he's got the trade protection, so he's going to be able to determine where he wants to go. But I would take that off your bingo card. He's not coming to St. Louis. You know, you may see a lot of Swedes eventually get here, maybe some European players, maybe more than, like with Army, you saw a lot of Canadian players. The Blues won a Stanley Cup with a lot of Canadian players. And maybe you'll see more European flavor with the Blues with Alexander Steen. But Steen, if you know what kind of player he likes, he wants guys that play hard and play the right way and have a complete toolbox. Don't cheat the game. Be a great teammate. Respect the organization. Respect the logo. Respect the city. But you have to bring it and do it the right way. You're gonna hear about this team component. Everything being about team. It's all team. You're gonna hear that from Alexander Steen. Pretty much every time he talks, you're gonna hear him talk about the importance of being a team guy. Because it extends to people who don't even play on the team, but maybe work in the organization. Everyone's got to be part of a team. Everyone's got to be doing things the right way. There's a certain respect factor, and certain expectations that people are going to have to follow. And the guidelines are clear. There's no black and white. And I love that about Steiner. I really do. But, you know, I know people in the past have, you know, used different adjectives or different ways to describe European players, whether you call them soft or whatever. I think that's changed a little bit. I think most of these, so I'll just use the Swedes, for example, the Russians too. A lot of these guys, they come into the league, they play hard. The Finns, they play really hard. The Czechs, you kidding me? So he wants guys that are going to play the right way and that you can rely on. Robert Thomas, like I said, he's not going anywhere. He's not being traded. I put that out on Twitter a little while ago. So they're not moving him. We'll see what happens with a few other guys. I don't like to make any predictions. You just never know. If they get the right deal, you're going to have some guys that are going to be on the way out. It's not going to be the same team coming back. We all know that. So we'll see what that looks like as we get closer and closer. Now, I was told the other day in terms of Jordan Kyrou that nothing is imminent. I think something could happen, but I don't think the expectation is that it's going to happen today or tomorrow. So we'll see what happens as we get closer to the draft, although you're starting to see some deals. We're getting at least like one trade a day, so nothing would surprise me if something were to go down this weekend or early next week prior to the draft. Jordan Binnington is an interesting one. It's just a matter of when. I don't think it'll happen between now and the beginning of training camp. I really don't. I don't think the Blues really have a backup plan for Joel Hofer. And I hate even calling Binnington a backup because he's going to play a lot of hockey. And Hofer's still, as good as he was last year, he's still finding his way as a true number one. And he's going to benefit from having Binnington around. But if Hofer takes the next step and does what we think he should do and what he can do, then the chances of extending Jordan Binnington beyond this season, unless he just really wants to stay so badly that he's willing to take whatever they put on the table, it's probably unlikely, right? So I think it's in Binnington's best interest to just let it play out, get to the trade deadline. If the Blues are in a playoff position, they may not even move him. Carolina's a perfect example that you better have some security at the goaltending position. But if the Blues are way out of playoff position, then yeah, he's going to have the options of moving to a team that's in the playoffs before next season, the following season, where he could sign an extension. But I don't expect him to get moved now. But is Binnington going to get moved? Yeah, at some point he will. I mean, he's a realist. I think anybody can look at this as an adult, as a mature, you know, hockey analyst, and look at it and be realistic about it and say, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'm excited to see Joel Hofer take off. But I love Jordan Binnington. There's a lot of value from having him around here. There's no question about that. They're going to be really young. You're going to hear Monty talk about how young this team is going to be defensively. I mean, I think Jiricek makes the team. And he even talks about the pairings. I mean, Broberg and Mayu playing together, that excites me. There's some good skaters on the ice at the same time, guys that could really get around the ice. And they're going to encourage, just like a lot of teams do, their defensemen to get up ice and be a part of the attack. Those guys are certainly capable of doing that. Parayko provides that experience that you need. You need some leadership. I'd love to see him break Barrett Jackman's all-time games played record by a defenseman for the Blues, and then become the all-time games played leader and break a historic record for Bernie Federico. I think that type of stuff matters. I really do. Some people may say it doesn't matter, who cares? You can't make decisions based on that. This guy won a Stanley Cup here. He's been a great Blue. He loves the city. He loves being here. I just, there's a lot of value for having a guy like Colton Parayko around. So, but we'll see how it plays out. In my experience, whenever a player is asked to waive his no trade, and then they say no, rarely does it just go away. You sweep it under the rug, and then the player is never asked again. Typically, that player gets asked again. Now, whether or not that happens, I don't know. But usually that's the way it goes. I always think of Doug Waite in that type of situation. I remember years ago talking to Dougie, and I remember calling him and saying, hey, what's going on here with you in Anaheim? Are you going to go to Anaheim? He said, yeah, they asked me to waive, but I said no. So the next day, or maybe 2 days later, John Davidson and Larry Plow called Dougie Waite upstairs to the office and basically told him, hey, you're not going to play. I mean, whether fourth line, you're not going to be on the power play, you're going to be out of the lineup. They found a way for him to accept the deal. And I've told this story in the past. I called Chris Pronger, who was playing at Anaheim at the time of my Bronx. The Blues are making a deal with you guys. And Dougie Waite's coming to Anaheim. And he said, for who? I said, Andy McDonald. He said, there's no chance. He said, I'll call you right back. Because I was told Andy Mack was the player coming back. And the Blues management at the time, they were trying to play like mind games with me. Because I reported it on Bernie Miklas's radio show. That's how you used to get news, was to go on radio. I don't even know if we had social media at the time. I guess maybe we did. And I'm getting text messages from upper management on the business side, the check it side, and they're like, are you sure about this? Like making me rethink it. So now I'm sweating bullets thinking that I'm wrong. But I had pretty good sources. So Pronger calls me back and he says, hey, you're right. They're making the deal. So, and And Andy McDonald was a great St. Louis Blue, and I love Andy Mack. And really enjoyed covering him and watching him play. He and Steen are very tight, too. Steeder's tight with a lot of guys. He's tight with Otter. Great to see Steve Ott get that 2-year contract extension. Listen to Monty, though, in this interview, how much he talks about Robert Thomas when it comes to being a leader. I get the sense either he's going to be the captain or nobody's going to be the captain. I know Jake Neighbors has captain-like qualities, but is it too soon? Is it too early for that? And if it's not, it's not. I mean, I think Jake could handle it, but at the same time, I feel like his game trended a little bit in the wrong direction last year after Braden Shen left. And I think he was putting some of that pressure on his shoulders. And you don't want him to feel that pressure. Just go out there and play. I don't want to say it's overblown, but for this particular group, I don't know how important it is to have one next year. I usually like a team that has a captain. We'll hear more from Alexander Steen on that front. This coming week, he's going to speak. I guess he's going to speak right after the draft. Army's going to speak this week. Always love hearing what Army has to say. And Army's not going anywhere either. And it's going to be a fun year. I've got a great feel for this coming season for the St. Louis Blues. I really do. All right, so let's take a break. We're going to talk with Jamal Mayers. Jammer's with us. He joins us next. And then we'll catch up with Jim Montgomery, the head coach of the St. Louis Blues. On this edition of Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. I'm Andy Strickland. Aiden's in the house. We're at Half Coast Studios. Thanks for joining us. As always, Jammer, he's next. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. All right, Jammer's back in the house. And it's been a little difficult the last couple of weeks. It's summer. Everyone's got stuff going on. And today we find you in Iowa. So thanks for doing this as always, Jamal Mayers. How are you?
I'm doing great. Excited. There's all kinds of things happening around the league. Some unexpected things, as we know. I don't know if there's going to be that much craziness around free agency, but I do potentially see some real hockey trades. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
Because the cap's going up and, teams will have a little bit more latitude to eat some money.
San Jose, the team that you work with, I mean, they made a move. They made a couple of moves, actually. So, we'll see what else they have on the horizon. Yeah, I was reading yesterday, they've got like $40 million in cap space, something crazy. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of, star players that make it to free agency nowadays. Darren Radish was going to be a big-time name, obviously, and he's off the board now going to Toronto. So we'll talk about him, but what is it that San Jose needs? They need D. Everyone's on a rookie contract, I think, except Orlov. And I think he's got 1 year left on his deal, Jamal, and he's like 34 years of age. So they could certainly use some help on the back end like they just got from Buffalo.
Yeah, I think that's certainly something that their defense is going to look a lot different. Nick Leddy won't be there. There's a number of guys that won't be there. So Mario Ferraro, they're likely going to let him get to free agency. I think retooling their back end is a priority. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if they parlay that second pick into a defenseman with term that's under 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting to see what they decide to do. But all the trust in the world in Mike Greer and Dougie Waite and all the guys that are part of those decisions.
What do you think of Elias Pettersson from Vancouver?
Well, I think that if I'm Ryan Johnson, I want to move on. I think you're going to have to eat some of that money. I do think there are going to be a number of teams, if you eat enough of that money, that they're willing to take a chance at $8 million a year, perhaps, that he can refine his game. He needs a new place. Sometimes that happens. It's nothing negative against the person. I think it's probably best for the organization, in my opinion, and for him to move on. And I think there are going to be, you don't need 15 to 20 teams interested, right? You just need 3, 2 to 3 teams that are interested in giving him another chance. And maybe if you eat some of that money and you take him at $8 million with the cap going up, it's a little bit more palpable for organization.
I think he's got no move protection or no trade protection in there too. So, he is going to have a say. I think he would want out of there too. I mean, this guy had 100 points a few years back, Jamal, and he's been a shell of himself the last couple of seasons, scoring 15 goals each of the last 2 years. So 30 goals combined. And here's a guy that you just thought would be a perennial 40 goal scorer. You know, you watch him play a few years back, you're like, wow, this guy's going to be an elite superstar for his entire career. This guy is going to have an amazing career. And to see it go where it's gone is just interesting. Um, I just feel like maybe he was broken in that market with the contract and trying to live up to the contract and having that $11.6 million number thrown into his face on a daily basis, playing for a hard-nosed coach like Rick Tocchet, and having some teammates that put some real heat on him internally. He just didn't respond very well to that. At least that's how it looks from the outside.
Yeah, I think you got it head up bang on in regard to what likely happened. I also would argue that perhaps they picked the wrong player. You know, sometimes that abrasiveness, and you have someone in the locker room that is going to challenge your better players, like that's the player you keep. And I think that they made some peculiar decisions in that regard. Um, they were a really good team. I think it's healthy when teammates challenge each other. It's how you take in that information and how you use it that's most important. And I think it's kind of telling. You know, Notwithstanding him perhaps having mental health issues, I'm not suggesting that that's the case. That's not what I'm saying. But when teammates are hard on you, it actually makes you better.
Mm.
It makes you dig down deeper. It makes you find another gear to get better. And I think that unfortunately, that confrontation that we all know likely happened didn't work out for them. And I think that the organization has been spiraling ever since. And the good thing is they have one of the hardest working people in hockey in Ryan Johnson. I think that you know, will not leave a stone unturned in regard to taking the proper steps to making this, getting the Vancouver Canucks back on track. And, listen, I played with Johnny for what, 6 years, maybe more. I don't even know the exact number, but a long time. And we killed penalties together. I know a lot about his character and who he is as a person. And I know he'll build the organization the right way. And you're not going to fool him with your effort. That's for sure.
Yeah. And if they can just remove themselves of the contract, and again, they're rebuilding and whatnot. They got to move Besser too. That contract extension made no sense to me. And if you look at Patterson, if you surround him with players who play with a little more pace, a little more skill, like who knows, maybe he can rediscover, what we saw from him a couple years ago. I would take a flyer. I wouldn't do it if I was St. Louis. I know St. Louis has kind of been rumored. I can tell you that that's probably very unlikely to happen. Just doesn't. But and they're not going to eat 50% either. So you're not getting him at half of 11.6. If they're going to eat 50%, then they're getting a pretty good player coming back the other way that's attached to that trade. But if you just want to give up a draft pick or whatever and have them eat a couple $1,000,000, you're taking on that risk. So we'll see how it plays out. By the way, you and Ryan Johnson, Missouri River Otter teammates too. So I mean, you guys, even during the lockout, you guys were teammates. So I love it. What do you think of real quick? Carolina winning the Stanley Cup. Obviously, it was a great series. Mitch Marner had some interesting comments about, his personal situation at the conclusion. But your thoughts on Carolina being Stanley Cup champions and what impressed you the most about them?
Just the relentlessness. They just work so darn hard, and the way that they play. You know what? They got the right guys to push them over the edge. Nikolai Ehlers, Stankoven, Hall. They don't win a championship without those guys. And I think that obviously they've got the right leader there. They play a certain way. It's proof positive to me that, you know, I'm scared for on the other NHL teams because it's a copycat league, and now everyone's gonna say we need to get more our fitness needs to go up to match the Carolina Hurricanes. And the regimen that they're on, and the what they demand physically from their players, and the way that they play all over the ice is grueling, but it works. and I think they added enough skill to get them over the edge. And pretty remarkable that they were able to change goaltenders during the final and have Bussy come in and do the job. Didn't have to be amazing, but it came in at the right time when Anderson looked like he was losing some gas. So pretty cool the way that it all fell together, and a pretty interesting story for their organization. And how about Rod ripping his shirt off and how ripped he was? I'm like, oh my god, what are you doing, buddy?
Oh
You
my,
enjoy some pasta, like mix in some wine. Like, what are we doing?
dude, he doesn't know how to shut it down.
He's
I've
ripped.
got Monty on this edition of Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. And I said, hey, it is a copycat league. So what are you gonna? He's like, I don't think we'll be playing man to man all over the ice, like
Yeah.
Carolina does. But you're right, man. All these guys they brought on board, it's amazing. Great job by Eric Tulsky and Rod to kind of assemble this roster and find the right players that fit. Ehlers has been a great player for a long time. You know that in
Mhm.
Winnipeg. So no surprise there. But Taylor Hall has just established himself as a pro, and he can just fulfill a role and play. Stankoven, we've talked about him a lot. Even when he was in Dallas in the playoffs, this guy popped and flashed and was really impressive. So it's amazing. Like Edmonton can't find a goaltender, but yet Brandon Bussy's in Carolina and he can win the Stanley Cup. Now that they're going to pay him, how much? How do you look at that next contract for him? Because listen, they have an amazing team in front of them. Their defense is incredible. Chatfield's good. We all know how good Slavin is. Keandre Miller was incredible. I love how Jordan Stahl said, "We don't win the Stanley Cup without you." They had a mic down the ice. And real quick, I was talking to Jason Blake. Did you play with Blake in Toronto?
I did, yes. Yeah.
So Jackson obviously led the team in scoring, but we talked to him early in the playoffs, and he was like, nobody talks about Jordan Stahl. This guy is an incredible leader. He's an incredible captain, and now his reputation is completely changed. He was like forgotten in terms of the best leaders in the league. No one ever talked about Jordan Stahl. They talked about Crosby and other players, and for good reason. But this guy's as good of a leader as we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and I think that he plus there's every detail of his game is in order in regard to like face-offs, positioning, um, just how hard he plays. Scored an amazing amount of clutch goals. It makes us reconsider perhaps, do we make the MVP trophy in the playoffs? Do we make that about the finals like other sports do? You know, there might be some thought that it might be time to do that
Well, that's what
because
they're doing. They're giving it to the best player in the final, right?
right, right. And I think that that's when it matters the most, right? And so let's be honest, I think Mitch Marner didn't have a point in the last two games. I think he was -5 total in those two games. They win the Stanley Cup. He's the MVP, but Jordan Stahl, what just remarkable what he was able to do and the way that he plays the game, and good for him at his age, still finding a way to get it done.
Winning a ton of faceoffs, shutting down Eichel like he is, and he had one goal in his first 11 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. To your point, and then obviously like scored in 5 straight in the Stanley Cup final. Darren Radish, that's the big news today. The sign and trade from Tampa to Toronto. I would imagine that Tampa Bay had a certain number that they just didn't want to go higher than, that they would have
Mhm.
kept him. Maybe Toronto had to pay a little bit more because of the tax situation there versus Tampa Bay. But it just seems like a risky signing. I don't know. When a player careers it at 30, Jamal, with those type of numbers, I just wonder if you can truly expect, is it fair to expect him to do the same thing in Toronto now moving forward?
I think it is. I think he's got that heavy of a shot. I think, let's be honest, it was not only Hedman. I forget who their second best defenseman offensively was also hurt. Um, that gave him that opportunity.
Hmm.
And so, you know, I think that it's a fair question, but the reality is there's so few ways to make your team better. There's so few free agents out there
You have to do it.
that I like the aggressive move.
Hmm.
I think that they probably overpaying by 2 to 2.5 million a year, and the term is probably scary, but First of all, Toronto Maple Leafs MLSE can afford it. Number one. Number two, they have to go for it, make a change. You know, they have to. And he only gave up what, a fifth round pick, I believe.
Yeah,
So I
there's a
mean,
late pick.
late pick. So I think that I like the move. I think it is risky. I do think Radish can do it again. He's going to be on that top power play unit. He can absolutely wire the puck,
Yeah.
and so I think that I think at the end of the day, will he get 22 goals again, 70 points? No, but I think if he gets 15 to 20 goals and is around 50 points, you're happy with that.
Yeah. And that's a great season. To get to 15 goals. I mean, not that many defensemen even get there, really,
Yeah,
year after year. And now the expectations, he's never had expectations. Like the expectations for him coming into last season were not for him to score 20, right?
right.
So now the expectation is for him to get to 15 to 20. And you're probably talking about McDonough. He was hurt for a while last year
Yeah,
in Tampa. And listen, I like the player. I look at the players he had on the power play in Tampa, the Gensels, the Kucherovs, the Points. Um, they they're winners. You know what I'm saying? Like they're driven athletes. They're just different. And so he's gonna have some good players to play with in the power play in Toronto. Nylander, Matthews, and these guys. It's just a different mentality. Well, we'll just see how it goes. I hope for his sake it goes well. I'm happy for him that he got paid. It's a great story. I mean, the fact that this guy at 30 years of age has an incredible season and he capitalizes and puts, 65 million bucks or whatever he's putting,
68.
$68 million in his back pocket. Like, good for him. I just hope fans are kind of patient with him. Just play good hockey and hopefully he can really help that power play and he should be able to. That's a
Yeah, I
good
think getting
player
off to a
like
good
you said.
start's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Getting off to a good start will be massive because I played in Toronto and the heat on him will be unbearable if he doesn't get off to a good start.
But those are the players Toronto has to take advantage of. I know some people are tweeting out and saying, "Hey, I thought nobody wants to play in Toronto." Well, he's from Toronto. Guys
Yeah,
at Toronto want to play in Toronto. You're going to give him 68 million bucks for this kid? Like, he'll play in Toronto. Of course he
exactly.
will. And
Exactly.
maybe he would have gotten more money elsewhere. I don't know. It's a risky signing just because of the resume, but I hope it works out for him and the Toronto Maple Leafs. What about Mike Babcock? Back in the NHL, he's going to be the head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. I'm just curious your opinion on that.
Couple thoughts on it. One, um, shocked that they're able to do this. Based off of the information that we had, um, I feel like we just keep going. Sometimes in hockey, we just keep going backwards sometimes as a sport. And I wonder, he's gonna have to have had changed, right? The reason why you bring in a Babcock is you go typically from a nice guy coach to a tough coach. And you go from a tough coach to a nice, that's usually the rhythm when you replace your coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what version of Mike Babcock are they getting? Because to come back, he has to change a little bit, does he not? And so, are you getting what you think you're getting? Because he has to have made some changes. And the interesting part to me also is that this doesn't happen unless McDavid and Draisaitl sign off on it.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not be mistaken. He's not going to be hard on McDavid and Draisaitl. It's the other guys in that room that are going to hear it, that are going to be messed with, that are going to be. So I find it a very interesting situation. I wonder if if Stan talked to Scotty and Scotty said you need to bring in Babcock, and then that got Stan thinking, yeah, maybe you're right. I should look at that because where does this idea come from?
I think Hyman may have been behind it too. I think Hyman and Babcock had a good relationship in Toronto. The
Yeah, he
Hyman
hired his
family,
son.
the Hyman family owns, Brantford obviously, and the Ontario Hockey League, and they just hired Mike Babcock Jr. So that could be the connection too. But
Yeah,
when I ask you this, Jamal, because what you're saying is Babcock's been very successful as a coach for the most part. for being a certain way, for having a certain style. How effective will he be now all of a sudden if he's different, if he's changed, if he's gentle, if he's soft, if he can't be the hard-nosed coach that he's been throughout his entire career? Will he be able to get his point across and have the same type of influence over his teams that he's had over the years?
Well, I guess a different way I'll say it is this. I'm not sure the tactics that he used in the past will work with today's NHL players.
Yeah, it's fair.
I think that's more about it. It's not that he has to change.
Mhm.
It's the way that he does it, the way that he,
Delivers. Yeah.
delivers the message and messes with, gets in guys' head and,
The
that
mind games,
the
yeah.
whole mind game part. I think today's player, this is just my opinion, you lose them. You lose them really quick because they're like, I don't need this. Like, you think that's gonna work on Nylander? Like, Nylander's gonna be like, whatever, shutting it down, buddy. Good luck.
Well, he's not there anymore, but I know what you're saying.
Nylander?
In Edmonton.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Apologies. But there's gonna be guys like that are not not gonna be interested in hearing that or not, how's Ryan Nugent Hopkins? How's he gonna take that?
Or Bouchard.
He's Bouchard. I've sacrificed myself for this team. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and he's a likable. I think there's gonna be some, and that's fine. There's gonna be some friction, but I wonder how effective it's gonna work in that locker room.
Trent
And
Frederick's another guy, man. I mean, he's got the 7 years left on his deal. He's making almost $4 million. He didn't have the year that he wanted to have. He's had some injuries and whatnot, but there's going to be those are the guys that are going to have the pressure on him, right? The bottom
those are
six guys.
yes, those are the guys where he's gonna ride, and it's just gonna. That's just, and they're your heartbeat of your team. Like, I don't know.
But Jamal, if
I'm
he going to be able to get McDavid and Draisaitl to be more committed to playing winning hockey, like they put up a shit ton of points. We all know that. But I've heard from teammates and different people around there, like, they're constantly putting the next guys who go out on the ice in a tough spot. They change at the wrong times. They're lazy getting back. They're not, there's times during the game, maybe they're tracking back hard and they're committed defensively, but that's not who they are. But it's obvious that putting up 140 points doesn't guarantee you playoff success. I'm just wondering, do they need to make any adjustments? The two-headed monster up top for them to eventually get over the hump. I mean, I should
Yeah.
remind people
Yeah.
they went to the Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row.
I have some very strong feelings about this. I think McDavid doesn't have to change a thing.
Okay.
I think the change has to be Draisaitl because of his physical stature, his strength, his ability to play against other teams' top lines. He's the one, in my opinion, I've been thinking this for 3 to 4 years. He's the one that has to sacrifice offense for being the guy that can be a shutdown guy and go from a 100-point guy, 120-point guy to a 70 to 80-point guy.
Or
And
even a
he is-
90, 95, whatever.
and he's that guy. He's that guy that just controls the game. Connor can do Connor stuff, and Draisaitl's that bigger centerman that can absolutely match up against the other team's top guys and shut them right down.
And get your points in the power play.
I think it's him that has to sacrifice.
I mean-
That would be, if I'm the coach, I'm going in there talking to Leon and tell him this is what I think is going to work.
I mean,
Are you willing to do this?
the 90-second shifts, the 2 minutes, they don't. Like they're waiting for you to come back to the bench. You know what I'm saying? That for the next line. Now you're chasing the ball. It's already in your D zone by the time you even jump over the boards. Like you would hate that, Jamal, as a player, wouldn't you? And
My
and
God.
didn't you, as a bottom six guy, like make sure that you're changed because you probably had top six guys coming out for you when you changed,
Oh yeah, of
and you made sure that you're not putting them in a bad spot, right? You'd hear about it.
course. Keep it. Yeah, I would hear about it. Yeah, you got to take care of the puck. You got to can't extend your shift. Like, it's just simple game management. Understand who you're on the ice against. I always tell kids you always have to be mindful of time, score, and situation. If I'm on the ice and I see Mike Modano get out there and I should not be out there against Mike Modano, well, you know what? My shift goes from 45 seconds to 20 seconds pretty quick. And you want to get that opportunity to change, I have to change. Like that's the reality of it. I think that there has to be like guys that are willing to challenge those guys. You know, I think Frederick is a great example of a guy who's good friends with those guys, and I know he's tight with McDavid, but he has to have those side conversations and say, you guys gotta be better too. Like you can't, this is what you're doing. And he has to be strategic on when he does it because you know guys have egos and you can't do it in front of others. But I think that that friction that we talk about between teammates is also important, not just from the coach.
Mm-hmm. You almost need you need veteran guys. They need some guys around there who have won, who can maybe help establish some of that culture. Real quick, you have any Blues thoughts? They've got 3 first-round picks coming up.
Yeah, dude. You know what I'm interested in? Do you consider parlaying a couple, 2, 3 players to hit restart on this group and get one of those top 2 picks? Do you at least have to consider it? Do you at least look at it and say, hey, could we entice Toronto with Thomas, with Franco in a package to get that first overall pick and hit reset? I mean, is that something Steiner's thinking about? Does Steiner have the autonomy to do that? Because let's be honest, it's very difficult when you're picking where they're picking. You're still going to get a good player, but that player is going to take 2 or 3 years, right? And so, to me, I don't know. You'd have to consider it. You'd have to consider what can you do to hit restart and get. When's the last time? Was the last time they got a top 3 pick? Was that Pietrangelo
No, he went
or
before.
Johnson?
EJ,
Johnson.
2006.
That was it, right? And so those are franchise-changing type of players that, you know, I think the evaluation they're making is that's like the way the last 2 years went. Like, what version are they? They're not the version of the last 20 games where you're all feeling good about yourself when the games don't matter. They're not as bad as they started the season because the goaltending wasn't as good. Like, what are they? I think that's going to be the evaluation.
They're going to
and
be really
determination.
young, Jamal. And I've got Monty. It's we get into that, and people will hear that conversation.
Well, even more reason then.
Yeah, I mean they're going to be young on the back end. They're not trading Robert Thomas. You know, I've reported that a couple of times now. Like that, like he's not going to be traded. Parayko would be interesting, Jamal, because you can speak to this. Maybe not personally, but obviously with teammates. When a player is asked to waive, and even though they say no, typically it's only a matter of time before they're asked again, right?
Yeah, in my experience, I've been around the NHL for 30 years. Like, it is hard to go back to your girlfriend when she said, I want to break up, and then said, no, I'm just kidding. No, we're good. I still like you. It's like, how do you get that out of your head that they wanted to move you, but now they're happy to have you back? Like, I think I love the no trade. I'll say this over and over again. Does not mean you're not being traded. It means you're having a choice where you're going. And I would be shocked if this summer, if Colton, you know, isn't thinking like, okay, maybe I need to like think about where I want to go next and have some control on where that is. That it might take him a year, it might take him 2 years to get there, but it might even be this summer. I just think it's a tough position that he's been put in, and I'm not sure that can be repaired.
If there's one guy who can get over it, though, it's him. He's such a nice guy. You know what I mean? Like he can move on from it. It'd be nice to have a veteran guy like him around because they are going to be so young on the back end with Lindstein and Urasek and Mayu's still really young too. Like they just got a lot of young guys. I But I hear what you're saying, you know? It'll be interesting to see what happens with Kyrou, but Thomas isn't going anywhere. But Kyrou, Pareko, even Bennington, like, I don't think Bennington's gonna get moved, but what if the Florida Panthers come calling and all of a sudden they need a goalie because they can't get things worked out with Bob, and, it's only a matter of time before Bennington gets moved, right? Between now and the trade deadline, he's gonna get traded unless he has an unbelievable season and he gets a contract extension. I don't think anybody expects that or expects Joel Hofer to fall off. They expect him to take the next step. This guy is so good. So, um, it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens, Jammers. So, I'm looking forward
Yep.
to it like everybody else. Um, all right, who brings you to, I just got out of the hot tub, by the way. I just wanna let you know that. I went
Oh, I'm sure you did. Yeah. You you might want to invite me over or whatever, take a look at it, but whatever. Yeah, we already had that weight shipped. Okay, sure you did. Local Masters Spas dealer with 2 locations, Fosman Moore, located in Sunset Hills and Overland Park. Mike Leahy is the owner, and Masters Spas is an American hot tub and swim spa manufacturer located in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They're the largest hot tub and swim spa manufacturer in the U.S. They also have Chili Go tubs. Michael Phelps endorsement. Angie Hess, we love her. She was in doing a show a few weeks ago with us. It runs the Sunset Hills locations. Fosman Moore offers high quality hot tub, swim spas, cold tubs, infrared sauna for people for all of your health and wellness and relaxation needs. Turn your backyard into the oasis of your dreams with a master spas from Spas and More. Spas and More located at 12957 Gravois Road in Sunset Hills, where we put the in spa.
It's time to get new tires too, Jamal.
Oh, dude, I'll tell you what. I just did it about a month ago because the tread had gone down in Natalie's Armada. And best thing I love about Dobbs is that they're family owned, locally owned, over 42 locations around town, but they're honest. You tell them what your budget is, they put you in the right tire, they get your car in, up, fixed, and out the same day. Great people, do things the right way. They can diagnose, doesn't matter what your car, light truck, van, EV, hybrid, they can take care of them all. They don't just do tires, they can diagnose and they can get it fixed the right way without costing you an arm and a leg. Go to Dobbs.com for more.
Hey, listen, I know you have 2 daughters playing soccer. We had another St. Louis girl just commit to North Carolina, by the way. I mean, we've got 2 of those now out of St. Louis. So, great news there out of the Scott Gollier program. Who do you like in the World Cup? You watching any soccer right now or no? Haven't
It's
had
been tough,
time?
but I will be watching the game. Is there a game
Yeah, USA Today.
today? Yeah, definitely want to get to that game, but yeah, that's going to be a fun one. Definitely watching all of them. I'm hoping for USA or Canada or even England. My stepdad's from England, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's crazy. Messi, I never watched him play a game start to finish, Jamal, until the other night. This guy scored 4 goals. One was called back, gets the hat trick. It's amazing for him to deliver on that stage with everybody watching and him just to look like he's playing youth soccer out there. So,
Yeah, I thought he had a bad knee. Unbelievable.
yeah, exactly. All right, Jamal. Thanks, man. Best of luck to crew. We'll talk soon.
Okay, take care. See you, bud.
Yep. That's Jamal Mayers here on Hockey Sense. All right. Jim Montgomery, head coach of the St. Louis Blues, had a chance to catch up with him. Of course, they made some news this past week with the hiring of a couple of assistant coaches, and we'll get into a number of things with Monty. I forgot to ask him about the captaincy issue. It's always that 1 or 2 questions when you're driving afterwards, and you're like, God, man, how did I forget to ask that? But we'll get some information on what it looks like here moving forward. Next week, I'll be broadcasting live from the draft. First Community brings us Hockey Sense each and every week. Find the branch nearest you, firstcommunity.com. Find one of these incredible accounts that works best with you and your family. Do it today. First Community brings us Hockey Sense. Blue Note Roofing. Call David Novak today, 314-920-5713. 314-920-5713. Call David Novak today. Of course, our friends over at Lordo's Diamonds, lordosdiamonds.com, right there in the heart of Ladue. You can't miss it. Been around for 70 years. The #1 option in the region for engagement rings, best selection of engagement rings. They've got great men's jewelry too. If you're looking at watches, high-end watches, they've got those too. But give them a call, 314-432-8008, or just stop on in to Lordo's Diamonds, right there in the heart of Ladue. Uh-oh, better get Mako. I just had my wife's car worked on there at Mako. She's hitting things. Drives me crazy when they like hit things. But that's part of life. I've got a daughter that's about to turn 16 too, so I'm sure we'll have plenty more of those situations coming up. I hope not. But you never know. Sometimes you just can't avoid it. But Mako in Kirkwood's been locally owned and operated since 1982, the year the Cardinals won the World Series with Ozzie Smith and Whitey Herzog and company. Their staff has more than 100 years of combined experience in the collision repair and auto painting industry. More than 75 years of combined experience at Kirkwood Mako. Go to Kirkwood Mako, a retail shop that prioritizes quality service and value. Their goal is the complete customer satisfaction. Incredible work they did in my wife's car. Here's what they specialize in, though: cosmetic collision repair, auto painting. So, listen, I know they're fully capable of repairing any collision damage. They focus on drivable hits because that allows them to turn around things quickly, all the repairs as quick as possible, and get the next person in. So, think drivable hits. And if the car, you can't drive it because it's totaled, probably not what you're looking for. But drivable hits, you have some serious dents, some serious damage, but you can still drive the car. Mako is in Kirkwood is your spot. Free written estimates can be scheduled on the phone, online, or to stop by Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. They offer the best price guarantee on all Class A insurance repairs, good as long as you own the vehicle. They'll also pick you up, by the way, and deliver by appointment if you live within 5 miles. It's free. Estimates available for a $50 fee, credible to the final balance. So go in there, get the estimate. It's $50, but then it goes towards the final balance. People come over to the house and they talk about my lawn, my grass. It was never like really a big deal to me until I got older. Like, I love keeping a nice lawn where the grass is green and it's beautiful and it's perfectly cut. And the reason why it looks that way is because of St. Louis Lawn Care. I mean, these guys are incredible. And they do everything over at St. Louis Lawn Care. They've been around for how long? I mean, when you think about St. Louis Lawn Care, they service everywhere in St. Louis. They do a bunch of stuff, though, like snow removal and all that type of stuff, too. So it's not just lawn mowing, although they do that at the highest level. They have a fertilizer program. They've got sod installation. I mentioned the snow removal. Remember their contact information when winter comes around. They mulch, aeration, the overseeding, which of course you need. It's a key piece to achieving that beautiful lawn. You want that overseeding. Leaf removal. Who wants to rake leaves? And then the mosquito and bug control, which is absolutely incredible. Couldn't live without it. If you like to spend time in your backyard like I do, you better have the mosquito and bug control. These guys are absolutely incredible. St. Louis Lawn Care. Get an instant quote. You can go online, stllawn.care.com. You can call them 314-974-5911. 314-974-5911. Please be sure to tell them that I sent you from Hockey Sense, Andy Strickland. 314-974-5911. For St. Louis Lawn Care, stllawn.care.com. All right, Monty, thanks for doing this as always. Always great to catch up with you. I know it's a busy summer and it's about to get busier. I mean, I feel like you've had nonstop responsibilities since the season's ended. So have you had time to take a deep breath and sit back and relax a little bit?
I have, because unfortunately we didn't make the playoffs. So it gave a lot of time to take breaths. It gave a lot of time to watch a lot of quality playoff hockey and show you why you want to be a part of it.
Yeah. What separates these teams that went deep into the playoffs versus the team you saw at the end of the year with St. Louis? Where do you guys need to build to get to that level?
Well, there's two things we have to do, and that this really falls on me, is doing a better job of finding our identity. When you see the St. Louis Blues you play, what are they known for? You know, and unfortunately, last year we didn't really get to our identity until after the Olympic break, and you know, and that was more consistent. Getting to that, knowing our puck management, our puck possession, and especially our puck pressure.
Yeah.
That's the area that improved the most. And the other thing that really needs to evolve um, is our leadership core taking over the dressing room. And it's really changed. And that's why I say that, you know, we had a couple of veteran losses. And now the Robert Thomases, the Brobergs, the Neighbors, Pareko, Binnington, those five in particular, but they're going to have lieutenants under them or colonels under them that they're going to have to bring along. The Holloways, the Hofers, um, Fowler, Kyrou, you know, these players, Buchnevich, these players got to help us coaches set a standard where when they see the blue and our fans see the Blues play, they're like, there's blue collar, there's hard work, and there's the skill that we've been hearing about day in, day out. And you're not going to win every game, but you're going to give your fans what you want, and we're going to be a much better team with much better results.
So when you want guys to step up from a leadership standpoint, they still got to be themselves, right? I mean, the way Brayden Schenn led is going to be different than how Robert Thomas is going to lead, or maybe even Jake, or who knows. I mean, Jake obviously learned a lot from Brayden too. So how much do you emphasize leadership in different ways? They still got to stay true to who they are, right?
Yeah, they have to be themselves, 100%. And you're right. You're looking at the difference between Shed and Thomas. They're much different communicators. But the number one thing is when we talk about a standard is the way we practice, who starts practice, who leads every drill. You know, that's going to be Thomas Holloway, Snuggerud. It's going to be the first line. The first deep pairing is going to be Broberg and more likely Mayu. But, you know, we'll see how that all develops with the D-core because our D-core is going to be really talented, but young. So those are the things, the standards that they can hold. And then the way we start games, whoever gets the job of starting the game on the road or at home, got to set a standard right away. The Blues are here to play. And, you know, that's going to become a really important dynamic. And these guys are ready for this, in my opinion, the leadership core I talked about. But it's the first time where they're going to be the ones pushing that agenda. And that's where us coaches, especially myself, the communication about the importance of when and where, and also me empowering them. You know, hey, the room's yours after this period. Hey, we're going to practice today, and I'm not saying anything in the first three drills. You guys, if it's not up to the pace that we expect, it's not at the level of execution with the right amount of energy, you guys got to step up. And that's where we really have to evolve. And once that happens, it's just like clockwork. The players feel more ownership in the team. The coaches love it. And that push-pull where we push sometimes, we pull back, the team leaders push. And that's what I'm really looking forward to.
How much do you check in with your guys during the summer, or do you leave them alone?
Yeah, you know, last year I checked in a lot. This year I'm going to check in more just with selective players. You know, Robert Thomas, Broberg, Neighbors, Pareko, Binnington, and a few others, obviously. But those are the guys that I'm going to communicate probably as much as I did last year. But last year I felt I communicated with everybody a lot. And I think I want our team leaders then to communicate to the rest of the team. So we were trying to start that dynamic right away in the summer.
Well, what's the next step for a Joel Hofer, Monty? I mean, he's been so good. He checks all the boxes. Like, what's the next step? You've got Binnington, obviously, that's still here as well. So how do you balance? You got a great goaltender who's an iconic figure here in St. Louis with a guy who's as good as any young goalie in the league.
Well, first of all, they're two incredible teammates. And Joel Hofer is very respectful for how much Jordan Binnington has helped him in his growth and development. Jordan Binnington is very respectful of the hard work and what a great goalie Joel Hofer is to work with as a tandem. I think They're the best tandem in the league. And that gives us an opportunity to be a really good team night in, night out. We're going to need both. And I know that that relationship of pushing each other every day in practice and also supporting each other, no matter who takes the net for the start, is something that I love about their relationship and something that I want to go right through our lineup. I want that same relationship between Robert Thomas as the first line center, and Dvorsky is the second line center, and I want the same thing as the first line right wing with the third line right wing. I want the number one defenseman to take the number 6 defenseman, also take his D partner. Hey, this is our moment to shut these guys down right now. We have a 2-1 lead, 2 minutes left in the period. Top 4 defensemen are going over the boards. They're going to own those last 2 minutes. Those are the things that we're really trying to develop here and instill in our players starting now.
All right, we're going to get into the coaches here in just a minute, but I do have a couple more questions. Hey, when do you start thinking about training camp, Monty? And I know you talked about that last year, and you guys didn't get off to a great start last season. That probably cost you from making the playoffs just based off of how you guys played after the Olympics. So we know how, what your A game can look like. What do you plan on doing differently from a training camp standpoint to make sure you guys get there quicker and sooner than you did, the last couple of years? I guess, last year for you.
Yeah. Well, the number one thing I'm going to be doing, there's going to be one focus. Usually what we've tried to do, like first day of camp, say we're going to focus on D-zone coverage. That's what we're going to focus on. And outside of that, I'm just going to be focusing on the right angling, the proper technique with our sticks when we're checking, if that's a D-zone coverage day. And we're going to be working on battling and defending and reloading, getting on the right side of pucks. So I'm going to really focus more on the individual attributes we want our team to look in our team identity. Last year, and I've done this my entire career as a coach, when you have a short camp, you really worry about being really good in your structure. So you focus on 3 things. I'd focus on tracking, D-zone coverage, and exiting our own end. Those are 3 things so it would be more of a whole, 5 guys working together. I'm going to start more with 1-on-1-ish situations, 2-on-2 situations, and we're going to get our battle level right up and add one structure thing in each day of the first 3 days of practice. The rest, we still have another 10 days to do it. We're also going to add more video sessions.
Yeah. Should we assume, listen, Thomas and Snuggerud and Holloway, they were so good together at the end of last season. Does that automatically translate into next year? You're going to want to look at it, I would imagine, right? But should we assume that those 3 should be able to continue what we saw from them towards the last few months last season?
They were so dominant and really good at both ends of the ice that, yes, my intention is that's the way we're going to start. Now, who knows? Our lineup might change, right? We all know the draft is coming. We all know free agency is coming. But right now, all I do as a coach is I worry about the players I know I have. We have a lot of talented offensive forwards coming back. We have a long skating decor that should be able to chew up ice and shut people down. Well, I don't think we're the most physical team in the league. I don't think we match certain teams in a physicality department right now. But we do match everybody I believe in our second and third effort and our ability to skate and angle and check people, kind of be so hard to gain, feats of ice against us.
Were you able to watch games with Springfield down the stretch into the playoffs? And is there a chance there's a player or 2 that was on that roster that played deep into the playoffs that could really push for a roster spot on your team?
Well, absolutely. There's a lot of players. I did watch the games, not all of them, but I would say I watched 60% of them. Because the beauty of being a coach is you can download these games, you can watch them at your own leisure and really see the players that you're looking for attributes that may come. But there's a lot of players, when you go on a deep playoff run like they did, and kudos to Steve Ott and his staff for the job they did with such a young team. They were hard to play against. They were defensive minded. And everybody was held accountable to getting on the right side of pucks. So a lot of those players have those habits coming into training camp. And a long run like that gives you confidence, and it also gives you the experience of how to grind out a series.
All right, so fewer preseason games. What kind of challenge does that present for you? Trying to get looks at different players. I mean, are you not going to have that luxury maybe the way you have, the last several years?
You don't have the luxury. Now getting a game is going to be an honor. And the games are going to mean more to us. We only have 4. Our veteran players can only play 2. So we're going to have to be very selective with how we manage that. And it's going to be kind of like your last 2 games of the regular season. If a guy comes into camp, we're not going to have as many players at camp because we have to get to our roster as quick as possible. Everybody's going to be racing to get to their 25 guys. It used to be a race to 30 in coaches speak in training camp. Now it's a race to 25. But you also know you're going to have that second group that's still players that are vying for the spot, but you're going to have split groups. The intensity and competition should be way up because all we have is 2 weeks to get ready. And those 2 weeks are so vital to the way we're going to be able to start.
Everyone wants to copycat the team that wins. So you look at Carolina and how they play, and you look at the effectiveness that they have with the Taylor Hall line with Stankoven and Jackson Blake and these guys. I mean, what do you notice? What pops when you watch Carolina? And is there anything you guys can emulate? And you had a lot of success against Carolina last year. One of the best games you guys played of the season was in Carolina. And they play that smothering style, but you guys adjusted to that really well. What do you see from them? Would you want to implement anything that you see that Carolina brings to the table?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to go man on man all over the ice like they do. But the one thing that we can really implement, and that's what we're going to do next year, is the team identity for us is going to be watching our last 2 forwards come out of our offensive zone. They got to be working that by the red line, they got to be ahead of the other team's defensemen. We didn't do a good enough job of that last year. And your last 2 forwards working to make yourselves a 5-man unit defensively is something we can emulate from Carolina. The other thing that we're going to do, and this so much isn't Carolina, but it's really the top 8 teams in the league. It's conversely the other way. Our defensemen have to beat their forwards up the ice. Mm-hmm. Create the numerical advantages so that we're working as 5 guys. Obviously, you got to have 1 guy back up, but I want the 2 defensemen sprinting to the red line, and the one that hits the red line first is joining the offense. The other one is going to hold the blue line. And then I think the way we're built right now, that leads us to be able to take advantage of our skill set by our forwards up front.
All right, so familiarity is everything, and you're bringing in a couple of coaches who you know. I mean, you go way back with Cronin. Did he recruit you to Maine or no?
No, Grant Stanbrook recruited me to Maine.
Okay.
Greg Cronin was a grad assistant.
Got it.
And per NCAA rules, those guys aren't allowed to recruit.
Okay.
He ran our dry land. Sean Walsh gave him that. And it was the hardest dry land of my 4 years. We ran every day. We had to do a half-mile timed sprint. And man, I had shin splints after 4 days. I wasn't used to running that much. You go on a 3-mile jog, a little different than a half-mile sprint every day. We were sprinting up hills, bungee cords. We had bungee cords break because we were trying to go so hard because you're trying to, it's training camp. You haven't started yet. But I'm really looking forward to the immense knowledge he has and how he's going to teach that not only to our defensemen, but to our team defense, and how well he's going to make. You're going to really notice exceptional sticks after a while, and you're going to be like, okay, that's the Blues defending right there. Look at those sticks. 5 guys sticks on the ice. 5 guys, their head on a swivel, trying to find who may be open in behind coming late.
Yeah. You should do dry land with the Blues this year in training camp, Monty. Just take them outside, have them run hills.
I need to do dry land. They need to shed pounds. I can't wait for the St. Louis Heat to come in July, August.
I see the Lindenwood team. They're running the hill over there at the back end of the parking lot, so maybe you can do that. But, I'm curious.
You trying to give
Cronin.
me a strong end? I might have a heart attack.
Oh my god. Well, you don't have to do it. You just bring your whistle. You make the players do it. You don't have to run the hills. But Cronin, it's interesting because his relationship with Fowler, who know I don't pretend to know what that was when he was in Anaheim, right? But as an assistant coach, what changes that relationship with a player versus being a head coach? What kind of adjustment will it be for Greg when he comes to St. Louis versus his experience in Anaheim?
Well, here's what the difference is everybody's different as an assistant coach than they are as a head. As the head coach, your voice carries weight. All three coaches can be saying the same thing from the bench to the player. Say it's as simple as watch the weak side. Players hear the head coach's voice. That's the one that carries weight, and it makes sense, right? That's the guy that ends up determining your ice time in the end. It may not be right down to the second because the defense coach is running the defense and changing them. But if someone's playing really well, I go down to that guy and be like, hey, let's start pumping him over the boards every second shift for a while here to take advantage of how well he's playing. And then the other thing is when you're an assistant coach, you're in a support mode to carry the message and also really work on habits and details and work on the little things that are going to make them really good in the team structure. And I know that that's where Greg Cronin excels from having, worked with them for 1 year. But more importantly, we've had numerous conversations about a lot of different situations. I interviewed for him for the Northeastern job as his assistant. He interviewed with me for the Boston Bruins job as an assistant. And the timing wasn't right for either of us as head coach to hire the other person, even though we had immense amount of respect for each other, because what we needed was not the right time for the person. And I really believe that this was the right time for Greg Cronin and I work together. And that's why I thought he was the best first guy. He was the first guy we hired.
Wow. Yeah, he goes way back, man. I mean, we've got guys from St. Louis who were part of that first class at the National Team Development Program who played for him there, and obviously who played for him at Northeastern from St. Louis as well.
Joey Videlli played for him.
Joey.
He knows what's coming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kyle Kramer's a kid from St. Louis who played for him at Northeastern as well. So, yeah, there's a couple, and Joey certainly would know for sure. So I'm looking forward to watching him get to work. So I would imagine Prosper will run the power play. Is that how you're going to delegate, or how are you going to look at that?
Yeah. Crow will run the PK. He's the one that invented for us coaches. Some people call it the toilet bowl because the forward goes down and then the puck comes up and then they just keep going like this. Like some people call it washing machine because again, it's just run. And anyways, that for 3 years became what the diamond has become in the last 3 years. The prototypical of the way people want a penalty kill because it pushes the best players into uncomfortable positions. And now he's going to have a different version because you got to keep adapting. You got to keep progressing and growing as a coach because other coaches are studying it and looking how to break it. And everything gets broken down after a while. And that's why you continue to see offensive numbers augmenting. Vaclav Prospal is going to be the forward teaching coach and power play guy. 1,100 games, played power play from the first day he was in the NHL to the last day he was in the NHL. Yeah. He understands, he has great vision, understands the puck movement, and most importantly, he's really going to work with the individuals in their roles and understanding where they need to be, when they need to be, and how we're going to attack that blue paint. He's really big on low plays, and when it's going up top, we're pounding it, or we're going right back down low, and it's going again to the blue paint, and we're going to have numbers there. It's something that really impressed me in the interview process, and I know it impressed Alexander Steen too, because he mentioned how simple he liked his delivery and how demanding he was of the way we were going to, attack the opponent's net on the power play, especially in zone.
Yeah. I may have said Vinny. I'm thinking Vinny LeCavalier, all these guys that played for Tampa Bay back in the day.
Yeah, Vaclav's nickname is Vinny.
Yeah,
Just so
okay, good. I said it.
so he could Americanize himself.
Yeah, okay. I was like, oh my God, I don't think I'm crazy there. So, how many guys did you interview? I mean, it's interesting that, and you and Steiner like sit in on these. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in some of these conversations, just you guys talking high level hockey. So, did you enjoy this process? Because I know when you went to Dallas, you inherited a staff. Same thing with Boston, and then here in St. Louis. Like, how much did you enjoy this process? And was it hard to kind of narrow in on two guys?
Well, it's I just gotta say I loved it. Because this was my first opportunity to kind of put a stamp on this is how I want to work. These are the type of people that I believe are going to make me better. And most importantly, they're going to make our players better. So when I look for coaches, I look for coaches that have the 10,000 hours watching the video, have the 10,000 hours putting on the working drills and working with individuals and a team. With Greg Cronin, he gave me the opportunity to have someone that has head coaching experience and understanding the patience needed. We're going to be a young team, no matter what happens after the draft, and we're still going to be a young team. We're still going to have Snuggerud. We're going to have at least 10 to 12 guys under the age of 25. He had 12 guys under 22 in Anaheim his first year. So and they were high draft picks. We're going to have a lot of first round picks on our team next year. Robert Thomas is still a first round pick, even though now he's an established leader and well-merited established leader that gets respect because of how much he's done in the league already. But now he works with Snuggerud, a second-year player that's a first-round pick. We got to have Kyrou work with Dvorsky, an established NHL veteran working with a second-year player in the league that is 21. We're going to have D-Man, Parayko working with, say, Littstein. We're going to have Broberg now, who's still under 25, but a leader on our team, working with Mayu. We may have Fowler working with either Tuck or Juracek, So I love the way we're set up because of the energy of the youth. It makes the veterans and makes us coaches younger. It's just like being a parent. When you have a toddler walking around and you're chasing them around, they give you more energy than when your kid's 16 years old and he's driving a car and you never see him and now he's laying on the couch taking a nap.
That sounds like you, Monty. You come home and take a nap, just lay down.
That's my life. I know that.
Oh my God! If I'm home at 5 o'clock, like I can't stay awake at 5 o'clock right now for whatever.
Oh
reason.
my God! I was asleep at 9 last night.
I know. Well, that's exciting, man. Blues fans are gonna love hearing that because there's so many young. All these guys you mentioned, they're young, but they're incredibly talented and gifted, and have so much ability. It's not like you're just bringing in a young guy to fill a gap. I mean, these guys are all a big part of the future and can all play. And they're all experienced players now, Monty, too. I mean, at a young age.
Look what's it last year? Yeah. Having that success, invaluable. But now they got to come. It's kind of like, I remember, and this is like what's great about having Doug Armstrong around. He's seen everything, and he was like, Snuggerud hasn't gone through the time zones. He came in, played the last 8 games, and we were the best team in the NHL when he came. And then he got in the NHL playoffs. Who doesn't love playing in the NHL? And he excelled for us. Well, he saw what it was like. He hit a wall there in mid-November. Then he got hurt right before Christmas. And then he came back, and what a different player. Because good players continue to grow. They continue to learn. I can't wait to see how good Dvorsky is going to be in camp this year. I can't wait to see how Mayu is going to be, knowing I'm an NHL defenseman. I've had success playing 22, 24 minutes a night some nights last year down the stretch, scoring the game-winning goal in the last year. Like, who would have seen Mayu actually doing a great job, like with a great gap initially in the offensive zone at the top of the circles, and picking off that pass and going backhand shelf. Like, those are the things that get you excited. But what's excellent about having Greg Cronin, he knows that there's going to be hard times too, and he's been through it. And whether he made a mistake of how he handled the young team in Anaheim, it's invaluable experience that he's going to be like, "Hey, Monty, time to take your foot off the gas," or "Monty, it's time to put your foot on the gas."
Yeah. How's Steiner been? You two working together. Obviously, last year you spent a lot of time together as well, and you've known him for a long time. But how's that transition going from your perspective as a coach?
It's been a lot of fun. He just has a quiet confidence about him that I find oozes through him about how's the right way to play this game. How are you supposed to be as a teammate? How are you supposed to act? And it's such a different perspective from Army. And it's great to have both of them. It's great for Steiner to have someone like Army that, he can bounce ideas off. But Steiner, like, here's the honesty of it. Here's how I see this player. What do you think? He'll ask me, what do you think of, what we can do here as a team, and what kind of player do you think you may need? I give him my input, and now he goes and says, okay, thank you for that. And he's going to go to work. And it's been a lot of fun, like hiring the coaching staff and giving him the information through all the people. Like I haven't, you did ask the question before, like for the Greg Cronin position, we had 4 people in mind, and couple drop out. Like you have people in mind and you make calls, and either it's not the right timing for them. NHL team may not let you talk to them. That's their prerogative, right? And we've seen it with the Cassidy situation. And then in the Vinny situation, we probably interviewed, I know we called on about 9 or 10 guys, but interviewed 5. And only a few made it to the second round. And then it was a hard decision in the end because there's a lot of quality coaches out there, but you got to go with the guy you think that's the right fit. Vinny having that much NHL experience and being able to relate like Steve Ott could with so many games played and be like, hey, these guys need this. I've been there. I know what they're going through right now. More so than, Crow and myself and David Alexander, who is another guy that's just an exceptional talent.
I'm glad you brought him out. I'll see him today because he'll be on the ice working with some goalies when my kid is skating at the other end of the ice. And I mean, it's what's a little luxury to have this guy helping you as a young kid, teaching you from a goaltending perspective. But, I was talking to Bruce Cassidy a few weeks ago, and I just randomly said, hey, what'd you take from the Olympics? Anything stand out? Did you get to know somebody that you didn't know before? And he said, who I really liked? I like that Davey Alexander. I said, well, you can't have him. That's Monty's guy, So it's like everybody, it's interesting that he said that about Davey. I thought he was going to say like, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, even Jordan Binnington, whatever. All right, enjoy the rest of the time. I know you got busy stuff coming up with the draft and everything else, Monty. So, I appreciate the time. Thanks for doing this.
Stricker, thanks. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
All right, we'll see you soon. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Hockey Sense. Always fun. Always fun. Brought to you by First Community. Get to firstcommunity.com today. Firstcommunity.com. Find one of their great programs they have. And we love our relationship with First Community. Blue Note Roofing, 314-920-5713. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Lordo's Diamonds, St. Louis Lawn Care, Mako in Kirkwood. All our great sponsors. Want to give a shout out to a St. Louis kid, Charlie Miniman, who just committed to the University of Wisconsin. He's actually going to the National Team Development Program. I want to get into the NTDP. I mean, some people are saying that they're losing players and it's not what it once was. They're a little bit behind in certain things. I'm going to have to do some research on that and see where things are at with the National Team Development Program. But Charlie Miniman from Chaminade won a Mid-States title there this past year, their first one ever, I believe. Really good, smooth skating defenseman, and he'll represent USA coming up with the National Team Development Program. Big shout out to him. And he also commits to the University of Wisconsin. So what a great week for that kid. What a great week for us. Next week, I'll broadcast live from Buffalo. How about that? For Hockey Sense live from the draft, brought to you by First Community. We'll do that next week. Looking forward to that. Hope you enjoyed Monty. We appreciate Jamal Mayers as always, and we appreciate all of you. I love hearing your feedback. Let me know what you think. Put a comment in there on YouTube. Shoot me a note on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. You can follow me on all platforms. And if you're following me on Instagram at Real Strict Nasty, let me know that you heard about me and you started following because of this show here on Hockey Sense. And follow me on Twitter too. Subscribe on YouTube. We appreciate all the support. We go year round here on Hockey Sense. Everybody have a great weekend. I'm Andy Strickland reminding you to keep your head up and your stick on the ice, baby. Enjoy the draft and everything that comes with it. Free agency is right around the corner. We'll have it all for you. All the reaction right here on Hockey Sense. Have a great weekend, everybody.